The Baltimore Ravens walked off the field in Week 8 with a dominant win over the Chicago Bears. But the scoreboard wasn't the only thing making noise. What should have been a feel-good moment, a complete team victory in front of the home crowd, quickly got overshadowed by a controversy that has put the Ravens under the microscope. At the center of it all, Lamar Jackson's practice status, the organization's handling of his availability, and the fallout that might be coming from the NFL itself. Let's start with what happened on the field because, frankly, it deserves to be celebrated. Tyler Huntley, stepping in for Lamar, played arguably one of his most poised and effective games in a Ravens uniform. He completed 17 of 22 passes for just under 200 yards and a touchdown, adding over 50 yards on the ground. He looked composed, confident, and in total command of the offense. And it wasn't just him. The defense was flying around, creating pressure, forcing mistakes, and making plays in key moments. Special teams had an impact too, pinning the Bears deep, making field goals, returning kicks. It was, by all accounts, a team win. The kind of game where everything clicks just enough to remind fans that this team, for all its chaos this season, still has life. But then we turn to the off-field drama, the cloud that's been hanging over the Ravens since Saturday morning. It all started when Lamar Jackson was listed as a full participant in Friday's practice, usually a strong indicator that a player is good to go. But come Saturday, a report emerged stating Lamar had actually taken scout team reps, an unusual detail for a starting quarterback. That raised eyebrows. Scout team reps are typically reserved for backups or guys not expected to play. And by the afternoon, the Ravens had officially downgraded Lamar to out and issued a statement correcting his Friday practice designation from full to limited. That triggered a firestorm of questions. Did the Ravens mislead people on purpose? Was this a miscommunication? Or worse, did they break NFL rules? John Harbaugh addressed it after the game, and his explanation didn't exactly inspire confidence. He claimed the team wasn't going to rule Lamar out until we had to, and that the 2 games in 5 days situation played a big role in the decision to sit him. Harbaugh also said Lamar practiced fully on Friday in terms of rep count, which was their basis for listing him as such. But here's the problem. The NFL's injury reporting policy is crystal clear. If a starting player doesn't take his normal reps with the first team, regardless of how many total reps he takes, he should be listed as limited. Taking scout team snaps changes everything. And Harbaugh, who's been in the league for nearly 2 decades, claimed he wasn't familiar with those nuances of the rulebook. That's hard to believe. You're telling me a head coach in the NFL doesn't know how to classify a practice status? It doesn't add up. Even if we take Harbaugh at his word and chalk this up to an honest mistake, it's a massive one. The Ravens are already in hot water from previous issues this season, multiple injuries, vague timelines, inconsistent status updates. There's a pattern of confusion and lack of transparency. And when you combine that with what happened this weekend, the optics are terrible. The league is now investigating, and punishments are reportedly on the table. Fines, loss of draft picks, maybe more depending on what they find. Now, let's be real. Suspensions? Probably not. That feels like an extreme unless there's proof of deliberate wrongdoing or some kind of coordinated effort to mislead. But a hefty fine? That's very much in play. Loss of a draft pick? If the league wants to send a message, that's absolutely on the table too. And for a team already facing scrutiny, that would be devastating. Because let's not forget, this wasn't just a paperwork issue. This was a situation that altered how Chicago prepared for the game. It affected the betting lines. It affected fantasy lineups. It changed the dynamics of game day decision-making. If the NFL determines that Baltimore's error gave them any sort of competitive advantage, intentional or not, the punishment will reflect that. And while Harbaugh pointed the finger toward the training staff and the PR department, saying the mistake wasn't on the football side, that doesn't exactly clear things up. It actually raises more questions. Who's really responsible for making sure the injury report is accurate? How does a communication breakdown like this happen in an NFL organization with layers of management, constant oversight, and legal departments reviewing every word that goes public? Even if it was just poor coordination between departments, that's still unacceptable at this level. You're dealing with billion-dollar operations. Precision matters. This whole fiasco is even more frustrating because it overshadowed what could have been a real turning point in the Ravens season. Sitting at 2 wins and 5 losses, They're somehow still in the race for the AFC North because the entire division stumbled this past weekend. It was a golden opportunity for the Ravens to capitalize, and they did. But instead of the conversation being about a complete team win, it's about mismanagement, miscommunication, and another black eye for an already turbulent season. And let's not ignore the conversation around Lamar Jackson himself. There's now speculation about how involved he really was in the decision-making process. Did the Ravens expect him to play and get caught off guard when he didn't? Did they list him as full to pressure him into suiting up? Those are serious accusations, and while nothing has been confirmed, the perception is damaging. Lamar was visibly engaged during the game, cheering, smiling, interacting with teammates, which shoots down any ridiculous theories about him quitting on the team. But the fact that people are even asking those questions speaks to how fragile the trust appears between player and organization right now. And it's not just Lamar. This season has been filled with weird moments and drama for Baltimore. From locker room exits before media availability, to anonymous player quotes criticizing coaches, to questionable injury updates, there's a cloud hanging over the franchise. And every time you think the team is back on track, something else pops up. Sunday was supposed to be a step forward. Instead, it's become another mess to clean up. What's even worse is that the NFL's rules on this are not new. They've been on the books for years. This is not some obscure regulation buried in a footnote. It's straightforward. If your starting quarterback is taking scout team reps, he's limited. Period. The fact that Harbaugh or anyone else didn't seem to know that, or chose to ignore it, is beyond belief. And now the organization has to deal with the consequences. Still, despite all the off-field noise, Tyler Huntley deserves his flowers. The man stepped in under pressure and delivered. This was the best version of Huntley we've seen. Smart decisions, smooth execution, command of the offense. And the play calling from Todd Monken finally looked cohesive, aggressive, and intentional. The deep shots to Zay Flowers, the balance with Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell, the creative red zone looks. It felt like everything was finally clicking. The defense, led by Roquan Smith, showed grit and execution. Nate Wiggins' interception, the blitz packages, the situational stops, all of it was there. Special teams, again, nailed their assignments. As the NFL continues to look into the situation surrounding Lamar Jackson's practice designation, more layers are beginning to unfold, and none of them paint a particularly good picture for the Ravens. The reality is that this isn't just a minor clerical error. The implications of misreporting a player's practice status are serious, especially when that player is the face of the franchise, and the mistake leads to a last-minute withdrawal that directly affects how the opposing team prepares. In a league obsessed with parity and fairness, even the appearance of a team gaining a competitive edge, intentionally or not, is going to spark consequences. Mike Florio, a name that doesn't exactly sit well with most Ravens fans, reported that the league is considering a range of punishments. The severity depends on one key question. Was this simply a case of poor internal communication, or was there a calculated attempt to conceal Lamar's true availability from the Bears? According to Florio, fines are almost a guarantee, but the possibility of more substantial penalties, like the loss of draft capital, can't be ruled out. If any trace of intent is discovered, if someone within the Ravens knowingly signed off on a false practice report, things could escalate quickly. The NFL doesn't want to set a precedent that lets teams bend the rules for competitive gain, especially not in the wake of other leagues, like the NBA, facing backlash for similar transparency issues. But here's what makes this whole situation even more ridiculous. The Ravens have been through this type of chaos already. Injuries, miscommunications, questionable timelines. It's all been part of their narrative for the last few years. Whether it's players being listed as day-to-day and then missing multiple weeks, or star athletes mysteriously sitting out without explanation, the Ravens have developed a reputation for playing fast and loose with injury information. And when you add in the fact that they've now caught national attention for this specific blunder, it's not just a bad look. It's a pattern that raises questions about the organization's internal processes and culture. The timing couldn't be worse, either. This was supposed to be a reset moment. A win over the Bears was meant to signify a turning point, a chance to shift momentum in a season that had been hanging by a thread. Instead, it feels like another distraction, another PR nightmare. Even in victory, the Ravens managed to step into controversy, and the ripple effect could reach beyond this week. Every time a player shows up on the injury report now, reporters are going to ask for clarification. Every time Harbaugh speaks, his words will be dissected for signs of obfuscation. And every time Lamar Jackson is involved in anything health-related, fans and media alike will be waiting to see how it's handled. That level of scrutiny is exhausting, and it's not going away anytime soon. What's particularly frustrating is how preventable this all seemed. The rules are clear. The policy is publicly available. The interpretation of the rule has been consistent for years. If a starting quarterback doesn't take reps with the first-team offense because of a medical issue, even if he's otherwise on the field, he must be listed as limited. Scout team reps do not count toward a full designation. This isn't up for debate. The NFL made that perfectly clear in follow-up statements. So how does a team as experienced and detail-oriented as Baltimore make that mistake? And more importantly, why wasn't there a stronger system in place to catch the error before it went public? Harbaugh's explanation placed the blame primarily on the medical staff and PR team, distancing the football operations side from the reporting mistake. But that response, while possibly true, also feels like a cop-out. Ultimately, the head coach is responsible for the messaging that comes out of the building. Injury reports may be filled out by staffers, but they are supposed to reflect what the football staff sees and approves. Passing the buck doesn't erase the consequences, and it doesn't ease the perception that Baltimore tried to game the system or got caught asleep at the wheel. This saga also reignites concerns about the Lamar Jackson-Ravens relationship. Things felt rocky during the contract negotiations, and while those are technically behind them, the lingering sense of disconnect hasn't gone away. Lamar's status is always sensitive, always under a microscope. Whether it's about his health, his availability, or his leadership style, everything gets blown up. And it's not helping when the organization seems like it can't manage the messaging around their franchise quarterback. Was Lamar consulted about being listed as full? Did he express concern after practice? Was there any dialogue between him and the coaching staff about how he felt physically? Those are the kinds of details that matter because they speak to how aligned or misaligned the player and the team truly are. There's a possibility that the Ravens were simply hopeful he'd play and listed him accordingly based on optimism rather than protocol. But optimism is not policy. The NFL isn't asking for how you feel about a player's chances to suit up. They're asking what happened in practice. That's the difference. And in a league that lives and breathes on structure, transparency, and discipline, misreporting practice reps is going to raise red flags every single time. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Whispers are growing louder in Baltimore, and fans are already holding their breath. The Ravens may have just pulled off one of the most surprising moves of the offseason. A former bitter rival is reportedly set to don the black and purple, and if early chatter is to be believed, this signing could reshape the AFC entirely. Sources close to the organization hint that the front office has been quietly negotiating with the player for weeks, keeping the deal under wraps until it was practically sealed. For years, this athlete was a thorn in the Ravens' side, someone who seemed to embody everything Baltimore fought against on the gridiron. Now, the tables have turned. Insider whispers suggest the locker room is buzzing with a mix of excitement and disbelief, as teammates try to imagine sharing the field with someone they once faced as a fierce adversary. Coaches, meanwhile, are reportedly thrilled about the strategic possibilities this addition could bring. Rumor has it, the playbook is being reimagined to fully capitalize on this player's unique skill set, potentially giving Baltimore an edge that no one in the AFC saw coming. Fans on social media are already split between skepticism and elation. Some see it as a bold masterstroke, a statement that the Ravens are ready to dominate next season. Others remain wary, questioning how a former rival will mesh with the team's culture and identity. Yet, one thing seems clear. The energy surrounding this signing is infectious. Analysts suggest that, if the rumors hold true, Baltimore could transform from a competitive squad to a true powerhouse, sending shockwaves through the conference. Even more tantalizing are the subtle hints dropped by the player himself in recent interviews, never confirming the move, but dropping enough clues to ignite speculation. The narrative practically writes itself, an enemy turned ally. ready to help the Ravens soar. Should the deal officially go through, it might just mark the start of a new era in Baltimore football, one where past grudges are replaced by playoff ambitions, and the AFC will have to watch out. The Ravens could very well be on the brink of rewriting the conference hierarchy, and all eyes are on this ex-rival turned Corvo to see if he can live up to the hype. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.